How have you been doing so far this summer? It's been about a month since the last update on my garden and all the critters living in it. Since the snow melted off in the spring, there has been a constant parade of plants popping up and blooming all over the place. Things are really starting to heat up now, though. Coming from the Arizona desert, the heat itself isn't so bad. Nothing can beat 120 degrees with no breeze. The humidity is something else, though. There's a ton of moisture in the air. It's like the Midwest itself is a natural greenhouse. Very good for growing things. Speaking of growing things, the garden is doing pretty great, I'd say. So great, in fact, that the whole neighborhood has decided to sample the goods. The birds have helped themselves to the few tiny strawberries that have showed a hint of red. The chipmunks feasted on some strawberry too, as well as making off with a tomato, and something has nibbled off the tiny finger-sized zucchini that were starting to sprout. Maybe someday I'll get to try tasting something I've grown, besides the few mint leaves that I've munched on. That thing's doing almost too well. Probably needs to be transplanted into its own pot. It's going crazy. I've been putzing around with my mother-in-law's nice and fancy Nikon camera. I'm still no expert, but I'm sure you can notice a jump in picture quality. I've figured out some of the settings, so the quality should only improve from here on out. Check out how the moss propagation is going. The goblet moss has gone through a phase. When the time is right, the spore-bearing capsule at the end of the moss's stalk opens up and releases spores to spread the moss around. And once done, the fruiting body isn't needed anymore, so it dies off. Notice how what's left behind after this process resembles little goblets? Both the goblet moss in the propagation bin and in the isopod enclosure have released their spores, and I'm very pleased with that. That just means more moss will eventually pop up. All three mosses appear to be progressing pretty well, and I've noticed new growth in quite a few places. Something exciting happening right now is that fireflies have started appearing. I've never seen a firefly in Arizona, so these guys are pretty magical to watch. It seems that they're pretty camera shy, though. It's really hard to get good footage of them, and they don't really like to light up whenever I catch them in a jar. Maybe the jar isn't big enough? I don't know, but you can see what I've managed to capture. Apparently, there's more than one type of firefly hanging out around my house. We have Photinus pyralis, the common eastern firefly, or lightning bug, and then we have these guys, Lucidota atra, the black firefly. Should be called the fucking imposter firefly. After catching a whole jar full of just black fireflies, I learned that these guys are actually only active during the day, and they are a special type of firefly that does not light up. How fun is that? At a quick glance, they might look the same to an untrained eye from the southwest, but let me clue you in. There's a few things to look for. 1. Look for the orange stripe. Lightning bugs have an orange stripe right down their backs. Black fireflies do not. 2. Jeepers creepers, check out those peepers. Lightning bugs are nocturnal and therefore have enormous marbles for eyeballs. Black fireflies seem to barely have any eyes at all as they lazily fly right into you. And finally, perhaps most obviously, 3. Lightning bugs have a large, visible, light-emitting organ composing the majority of their abdomen, whereas black fireflies do not. I've been running into plenty of other visitors to my yard as well. Look at this slug, just cruising along. They've been out in force lately. And look at this nasty little beast. I found it munching on a rotten tomato that I had picked off the vine and smashed. I believe this is Helicoverpa zea, the corn earworm, the cotton bollworm, the tomato fruit worm. All different names for the same terrible pest. It's the larval stage of the Helicoverpa zea owlet moth. which acts as a beneficial nocturnal pollinator to many plants. But I'm not so sure that good behavior in the final stages of their life cycle make up for the destruction they cause as adolescent pupae. Summer seems to be the time of the arachnid. They are absolutely everywhere. A juvenile wolf spider actually tried to make its home in the isopod bin. He got forcefully evicted. I hear it got kind of bloody, but I don't spread rumors. I see loads of jumping spiders. They're such distinguished little guys. Very cute. I wonder how hard it would be to set up a bin for them. This one was gorgeous. She was there and then gone in a flash. Oxyopus salticus, the striped lynx spider. And these guys are cellar spiders, but I've only ever seen them living in my garage, so maybe they should be called that instead. Sick name for a band, by the way. Don't steal it. I believe we have Volcus phalangioides here. They're kind of funny. They exhibit a unique behavior known as whirling when they feel threatened or territorial. They start to shake, vibrate, gyrate, and do push-ups in order to distract and confuse predators. I know I've mentioned it before, but an interesting fact is that these guys share a nickname with two other critters: cellar spiders, crane flies, and Opiliones. Give it up for the daddy long leg gang. Oh, on the topic of Opiliones, I was really excited to capture this specimen. It's definitely more mature than the one I caught before, and interestingly enough, this one's missing a leg as well. It's a rough life out there for an arachnid. I'm almost ready to get started on setting something up for a group of them. I am thinking about migrating the Isopods to a brand new bin, a smaller bin, and turning the larger bin into the Opiliones habitat. The Isopods seem happy as clams, really, and I tossed a crushed up eggshell in there for some supplemental calcium as well. I think next time I'll crush it up into more of a fine powder than big chips, though. I think it might be easier for the little boogers to feast on it if it's like that. Still chowing down on that potato. Oh, and the potato half that I tossed into my garden has completely vanished. That buffet fed the neighborhood isopods for a solid month. And look, right there. Do you see that? Do you know what that is? That's a manca, a baby isopod, born in our enclosure. To be completely honest with you, I was just trying to take a picture of the two dudes chilling right there. I didn't even see the manca in person. But with that picture proof right there, I'm gonna slap the seal of success on this bad boy. We did it! I set out a few months ago to create a naturalistic environment for isopods, completely contained within a tub, only utilizing specimens and bioactive components sourced for free, right from my own backyard. Mission accomplished. And now, for our shining stars. Give it up, for the mighty Springtails have arrived. I was worried about them breeding, but boy, have they been getting busy. How many did I say I started with? Like barely a handful? Well, there's a hell of a lot more of them now. I've been feeding them their nutritional yeast flakes every few days, and they go bonkers for it. They've started to fully explore their enclosure too, and I have to shoo a few brave explorers back down into the bin every time I open it up. I'm starting to think that for sure now we have two separate species in our tub. So we have a much clearer picture of species 1 in our tub, Orchicella cincta, the giant belted springtail, large and in charge, with their fancy golden belts. And I think I finally narrowed down the other species as well. Entomobria multifasciata. I guess that they don't have a common name, or I couldn't find it in my searching. So I nominate 2 names for your consideration: the tiny tiger springtail or the yellow jacket springtail. Cast your vote in the comments now. But every high has got to have a low, right? Well, it rained last night. A lot. And I guess the lid to the springtail bin is 99% airtight. It seems that if water pools on the lid, some of it can seep its way down into the enclosure. That's way too much water. They are completely up Charcoal Creek without a paddle. But it gave me a good idea of their population, and I got to thinking how to sort this out. I for sure was not going to just dump the water out under the ground. We'd lose I don't know how many springtails. One good thing is that springtails are so light that they float in water. They can't break the surface tension. So when life gives you lemons, I wanted to seed some springtails in our moss bin for a while now. I think that they do wonders for the microenvironment. So consider this a moss bin booster shot. I held the charcoal in place while I simply poured the excess water off into the other bin. Simple as that. Inoculation complete. The springtails were very active and excited for some time after that. It was really interesting to watch them scurry around for a while. And so you made it to the end again. I hope this one was interesting for you. I hope that you learn at least one new thing every time you watch one of these videos. I know that I've already learned a ton just by making the 4 episodes in this garden series. And there's about 1,000,000 tons more for us to learn together. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And let's just sit here and watch the birds with my cat for a minute.